Mic start now.
I would like to call myself as an accidental architect.
Other way around. So, in today's episode of Break Talks with Siddharth Nahta, we have someone who has worn many hats. He has worked into the field of development management, project management, cost management, technology integration like BIM. Sunjaay is having more than 20 years of experience in India and abroad. He was earlier an entrepreneur, now he is an entrepreneur. I welcome you, Sunjaay, to Break Talks with Siddharth Nahta.
Thank you, Siddharth, for having me over. I'm looking forward to it.
So Sanjay, you had started your journey long back, from architecture, then Nikmar, and then finally, you went to the industry. So how has the journey been?
Well, the journey has been awesome so far, and I strongly believe that I'm probably only 10 to 20% into the journey. Like the cliche that goes around, right? It's not about the destination, it's about the journey. But I would like to add one more layer to that. It's about the company of the people that's part of this journey that makes it even more enjoyable. So perhaps in the journey, one thing I always look forward to is the type of people, the company of the people that are part of my journey, and I hope that I'm also part of their journey too.
How did you really become an architect?
Well, I would like to call myself as an accidental architect. When you graduate your 12th standard and you're looking at options, and that time we didn't really use Google, or we didn't have that exposure levels. Obviously, one of the things as growing up we are told is you have to become a doctor, engineer, or a CA. Doctor was difficult. Then the next step was engineering. So I always wanted to do something where I can touch and feel, more a tangible thing. So I thought civil engineering, buildings and all that. And I wanted to go for it. I did get some free seats for other branches, but my dad, who's a strict disciplinarian, and he still is, so he decided that I need to go only to a particular college so that I pass out in one piece. Having said that, so we got into the entrance, the counseling session, and we came out with a coupon. We would go to the college, and I said I want to be a civil engineer, and they said there's no civil engineering department here. So obviously I was shocked. I didn't know what to do, and then thankfully one gentleman from the office raised the hand and said there's something similar available here. And I said what it is. That's the first time I heard Bachelor of Architecture name itself. And they said it's buildings. I said, as long as it's buildings, let me join. And I joined it. It took me 6 months to actually realize that it was a 5-year course and not a 4-year course. It took me further another 6 months to muster up all the courage to go tell my dad that you got to pay 1 more years of fees. So yeah, all said and done, it turned out to be good. Not just because I met my wife there, but also the fact that looking back at those 5 years of architecture, I think changed my life from a personal development point of view.
So Sanjay, how did you become an entrepreneur?
Architecture, probably. Before we went to Dubai, my wife and I always wanted to do things in India. So we always went there with the idea of coming back as soon as possible. It was quite an interesting, because that's how I became an accidental entrepreneur, right? I was having a coffee session with one of the English partners in one of the workshop sessions that we were doing about. And I just randomly asked him, why don't you have an office in India? The gentleman takes a sip of coffee and he lowers his specs and he says, do you want to start it? And then that's it. I took a sip of coffee and I said, yeah, let's go for it.
And yours was an English company, 150 years old, right?
It was 220 years old
at that time.
Started.
You ran that company for how many years?
I think it was approximately about 7 or 8 years.
And then you bought that company and named it?
Oh, well, I had to go with my initials for different reasons, but I named it as Sunjaay Athanki, so short form of SA at that point of time. We always had a plan in place, what we want to do as SA when we took it over. I think it was a period of about 3 to 4 years that we did what we did as SA before we as a team moved into Turner.
Can you share some challenges you faced while starting Gartner and Theobald in India from ground zero? Although it being a 220 years old company that time.
And when we came into India to start this particular firm, and then 3 weeks into it, Lehman Brothers fell and hell broke loose, a lot of stress across, and we hit the bottom. So obviously, that was a pretty challenging time to have made that move internationally from Dubai to Bengaluru to be doing this. But having said that, I think there were always some personal references that you have, and there was a good brand value behind us at that time. So when you approach a client, they always look for that one parameter, whether they want to decide from an X or a Y or a Z.
Yeah.
And it's probably the X factor, I think, is which firm would give them the principal's attention. And I was there ready to offer that. We were a small team. And I think that confidence was something that rubbed off well with our clients at that time. And once you make that first break, then it becomes easy. Because you have a proof of concept in place, you showcase your capabilities. And to be honest, even during that time, our project 2, 3, and 4, people called us because of word of mouth. You give a quality deliverable, people will not ignore you.
Was there also a feeling in that in India people are more inclined toward foreign brands?
We always are as a culture, perhaps. I mean, in what we wear and what we do, what we eat. Sometimes I think it's all a little bit of a branding media effect. But having said that, we have gone past that phase, in my opinion. So there's literally no difference now with an Indian brand to a Western brand. But the stark difference at that time was there was a method in our madness in a certain way that we used to do in the Indian construction industry. And there was a lot of method otherwise from Western. It was more process oriented and all that. So the Indian construction industry, which I don't think is there anywhere, is the theory of Jugaad. And when you mix Jugaad with process, that's a deadly combination for our clients. So yeah, we take the best out of both worlds.
With this transition, there is a lot of psychological ups and downs that goes with it. How were you able to create a psychological safety net for your teammates and yourself?
And we as construction people, in general, we talk about physical safety. We have these meetings where the first point of agenda is always
Safety.
Talking about safety. What we've already done recently, and I think probably we should thank COVID for this, amongst the other thankless things that COVID brought for us, is that we also have a second point of agenda where we talk about psychological safety. One of the things that is not happening enough, and this is probably a motto which we talk about, is keep talking. But in terms of transition, what is perhaps, given the comfort in a community of colleagues, is that clipping that any sense of insecurity that exists, clipping any sense of hierarchy that stays. Hierarchy is important, there's no doubt about it, but that's work stuff. In terms of relation building, we make sure that there's an open environment available for all of us. Have we achieved it completely? Obviously no, but we should always keep that in mind when we grow together as a team.
If you can explain us better by an example of steps that you are actually doing.
Absolutely. I mean, a leader can show her or his vulnerability in front of the team. Nothing wrong in it. And that kind of breaks the ice a lot better. And the reason I say this as a context, because that's very important, because when you have a coffee session, when you have a session with your peers or colleagues at various levels down the line, you need to be talking at a same at par.
Yeah.
So once you achieve that, then the discussion becomes more meaningful. The coffee sessions that we have, where we talk about careers and those sort of things, that really is helpful. And from a professional point of view, we undertake a lot of skip connects.
Skip connects, okay.
Which means in an organization, you would probably have various levels. and you skip levels and connect to people. So thereby, there is trying to make the organization a little more flatter. There's a lot of ideas sometimes for the the bottom rung of people, which probably doesn't come up, and realize it. So I think skip connects have helped us a real lot, both in the soft issues as well as hardcore business issues. We've received a few ideas which we've actually implemented too.
So as a leader, the journey, along the ladder as you grow, it goes, more lonely, or, you are alone, you have to take care of your team and people. How do you keep yourself motivated and energized? I mean, how is this aura coming up?
I don't know what you saw, but no, it's a lonely place out there. I mean, as you grow up at the top, whether you're an entrepreneur or you are what you are as a corporate entrepreneur in certain levels, it tends to get lonely. The concept of having me time is very important. The sooner we find it, the better for us. That me time could be, in my case, it started with running, it could be reading, it could be anything else that you want to do. So you go into a zone where habitually you keep doing it, repeating it, declutter your mind. There are always 20 plus things in our mind that our brain wants us to process. Have your me time. Your brain automatically prioritizes it and tries to find reasons or context or solutions for the issues one by one. It's not easy. We'll have to work hard towards that as well. Concept of me time was something that I would strongly propose to all of us.
How important is fitness for you?
Oh, it's very important, not just because of my age now, but it is very important for mental health, I suppose. Kind of lightens up the entire day, and you feel good. I mean, that's important.
What do you think about digitization in construction industry? What are the trends?
One of the things personally close to my heart is what we as a business unit are doing currently. We've invested a lot of time and effort, and some of our core business is based around technology. And by technology, I mean, for example, usage of BIM in the construction industry. We as a team are working on a strategy, and we've started implementing it. The bottom line being, we set everything up virtually from all respects, be it logistics, be it design, be it safety, quality, all set virtually before we even hit site.
Okay.
And that is possible only if we look at construction end to end, all on a digital platform. So there are other things technology wise that come into this platform apart from BIM, say usage of Power BI, for example, usage of other estimation softwares, for example. A lot of this come in here, and let's not forget, a building can be done in 5 years, but the building has to live for the next 50 plus years, which means sustainability, what's the carbon footprint, what is the energy modeling that we do for our structures, and how we track it, and how we integrate that into the facility management softwares as well. So it's that full life cycle that we'd like to establish virtually before we actually start constructing. You might call the classic, right? You want to do 20% planning, 80% troubleshooting, or do you want to do 80% planning and 20% troubleshooting?
Your choice. What are the new business idea or technology that is, germinating with you, or, you're having a look at coming across in the industry?
I think you're probably referring to new idea, meaning a startup per se, right? And we have not been fortunate to have a lot of successful startups in the Indian construction industry per se. So when you get back to the term new idea, a successful idea needs to address a problem at hand. Perhaps address a problem that has not yet occurred, which means I'm being ready for the problem in the future, like a Y2K, for example. I think Indian construction industry needs a lot of transparency, and if there's any business idea that comes addresses this particular issue, especially in terms of land holdings, in the retail market. If you and I want to buy a land, what we need to do about it, how do we go about it, how do we feel comfortable. The very funny fact is people who have money refrain themselves from buying a land still for because we are worried what it might mean legally. So if there's a certain level of transparency that we can bring in, that would be beneficial not just as the industry but for the larger population as such.
So Sanjay, now this section will play a game. The name of the game is mergers and acquisition. So if you are given $1 billion, what kind of expansion would you like to go for? Is it going to be a horizontal or is it going to be a vertical expansion?
First of all, thank you for mentioning the currency. That's more important. But yeah, I personally feel and I believe also that horizontal and vertical are probably obsolete terms in terms of when it comes to integration. I think we should go towards an approach where it's diagonal integration. And by that I mean it has to be on a tech platform, no matter what businesses that you do. Because when you are on the tech platform, businesses thrive much better and you can achieve your goals faster as well.
So you would be wanting to acquire more tech-oriented companies if you are given $1 billion?
Absolutely. If there is some company that doesn't have doesn't give importance to tech, I would probably stay away from it.
So Sanjay, this part of the show is known as rapid fire. So I'll be asking you questions. You have to speak the first thought, okay, without thinking too much. Are you ready?
So I'm under fire now, is it? Perhaps I need to tie my hair for this.
Let's start.
Yes.
A childhood friend that you are still in touch with.
Oh, I've been fortunate with 3-4 childhood friends, but a few of the names that come to my mind readily is a person called Hemant. We've grown up literally in the same streets and wherever we are at this point of time.
Books or blogs?
I would read books, probably write blogs now, but in the future I would like to reverse that.
Which one is closer to your heart? GT, SA or Turner?
Well, all of them is the heart, parts of my heart. It depends on which chamber is what, which wall is what. Let that be inside my heart.
Sure. Do you have a plan B?
I always have plan C too, but if you open plan C, it says stick to plan A.
That's a great answer. Your favorite building as an architect?
I think I've had the fortune of being able to visit Statue of Liberty. It's not a building, it's a awesome structure. There is the vibe that you feel when you go to the approach, when you see it. There's so much of history all around it. Awesome experience too.
So thank you Sanjay for coming to Break Talks with Siddharth Nahta. It was a fantastic conversation. To listen to more leaders like Sanjay and get to know their first-hand experience, keep on watching Break Talks with Siddharth Nahta. Like, share it with your friends and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. Thank you Sanjay.
Thank you Siddharth. It's been an awesome time spending with you.
Thank you.
Time well spent. All the best.